In 1997, Paul Verhoeven's Starship Troopers, see also RoboCop, and the retrospective Flesh and Blood failed to find their audience. The US production with an R rating had costs over $100 million and made in America just half of it back. It was a commercial failure and got mixed to negative reviews, but was also nominated for a number of awards. Quickly gained cult status on video and DVD and came back in sequels, games and animated series. Today still controversial, as some accuse the movie of war glorification, while others, like me, regard him as the ultimate brilliant satire. It is based on Robert A. Heinlein's, see also his Puppet Master's book in the Body Snatchers retrospective, same named 1959 novel, in Germany published as Star Warriors. The novel describes unbearably lengthy the military career of Juan Johnny Rico and is told from his perspective. A Filipino in the book, which differs on many occasions from the adaptation. Among others, his father does not die in the bug attack on Buenos Aires, but his mother, and therefore later becomes a soldier himself and even serves at the end under Johnny. Dizzy Flores is not a schoolmate but a male comrade, who dies in the first mission. His teacher is not called Raschek but Dubious, who also doesn't later show up. There are mechanical full-body combat suits which are worn exclusively by men. Those are missing in the adaptation. Like in the movie, Rico volunteers with his friends, but there is no tacked on love triangle. It's just a simple, puke-boring military career story. The first half describes the far too long training sequence, almost without action. In the second, also his career to officer. It praises the seemingly fascistic system, has many attempts for the legitimacy of the military-industrial complex, and laughable hypocritical quotations from other literature, but mainly from the Bible and even one from the Quran to pretend objectivity. It also takes a felt eternity until finally it goes into battle, where the bugs are only one of several races which were fought against. And yes, the described technology is remarkable, and like the setting, soldiers in space, it was copied and quoted many times by books and movies, such as Aliens. In my opinion, this still can't compensate for the overall brain-melting propaganda. Reading this is worse than an involuntary weekend in a boot camp. The novel describes democracy and the inalienable rights of every human being to life, liberty and the pursuit of happiness, formulated in the US Declaration of Independence as heresies. The resulting fascist society bears frightening resemblance to our own, particularly even for sleep sheep and jab addicts, clearly recognizable since the abolition of basic and human rights, this time by a pretended pandemic, soon because of CO2 caused global brain warming, then the overpopulation classic of course, and so on. By the second enabling act in March 2020, the first was March 1933 by the last dictator, and the accompanying departure from the Constitution. More on this in Running Man. In the book, basic rights are tied to conditions. For example, the right to vote is only given if one has explicitly served voluntarily, which is simple extortion. Also, they go with conditioning, just like with dogs. Blackmailed and trained or conditioned are dog people with us so that they behave well by the chicanery measures like socialist distancing, arbitrary curfews and the voluntary masks, alternative fines and prison. The voluntary poison and sterilization injection, alternative social condemnation, job loss, child withdrawal. The voluntary digital vaccination pass, the voluntary chipping, and so on. The novel also incorrectly refers to basic rights as privileges. The same thing some openly corrupt, openly fascist politicians have been doing more often lately. In the book, there is a totalitarian world government, the Federation, with us now already by the deep state installed, not elected, globally orders-giving terror organizations such as UN, WHO, Google, EU, and so on, with open agenda New World Order, aka World Dictatorship. More about this in the Deep State and COVID-19 84 videos. In 1988, the 6-part Japanese anime Starship Troopers appeared on TV with 25 minutes per episode. Of course, only available in Japanese, but I don't call myself der Japango for no reason. What means, of course, I didn't understood a word, but fortunately there were subtitles. It shows more or less the story of the novel, but does not go into the political aspects. There is an annoying romantic subplot, as well as some nice action sequences. After a war against a civilization of arachnoids, so-called bugs, people live united under a military-dominated world government. Johnny Rico volunteers as a soldier after his graduation.
Infantry, sir.
Mainly to be close to his girlfriend Carmen. She has decided to be a pilot, which is only possible with military service. This also applies to many other privileges, such as being allowed to elect, being allowed to get children, and so on. During the training, Rico notes that he has made a mistake and wants to quit the service. But his parents get killed during a bug attack, and so he stays to avenge their death.
You start off with this piece of music.
The soundtrack by Basil Poledouris is genius as usual and sets the propagandistic tone of the scenes perfectly.
Very camp. It's kind of a dangerous way to start a movie.
Movie and book are extremely different, and I of course prefer the movie, which visualizes highlight Spectre propaganda consistently by overwriting to absurdity. Verhoeven worked mainly with practical effects, sets and miniatures, combined intelligently with CGI, which even today still make many new movies look old and dated. Its falsely accusing of violence, glorification and fascist statements is due to the concept. It is a simple advertising clip in an alternative world in the future, in which a fascistic system like the Third Reich or an empire, in this case using the US Army as an example, has gained world power and dictates the rules. This advertising clip is interrupted with the current events in this fictitious world, raw without any explanation. Verhoeven himself said that the movie has an open battle with a militaristic and fascistic book. He shows the reality of the hypocritical novel of Heinlein, which contrary to the much more honest movie tries to play down many things and does not spend much thoughts of the real consequences of such a military dictatorship, producing gun-crazy, brainwashed idiots willingly giving up human rights. Of course, thanks to deliberately two-dimensional written characters and exaggerated action, for simple-minded he seemed like an invitation to war games. Back then, pseudo-moralists gave him devastating reviews, which I foolishly took for real, and so I avoided the best action movie ever in cinemas. What a missed opportunity. Some very cautious were also responsible for the indexing, to protect others from the supposedly bad influence. From my point of view, these are the same people who do not want the consequences of violence to be shown, which just makes it worse by playing violence down. The same applies to the demonstration of the consequences when a society is taken over by the military-industrial complex, like our society. The fact this is confused by some stupids for the opposite, namely as advertising, is just embarrassing and shows how far ignorance has replaced real knowledge.
So we need retrieval now. Fire! Kill them all!
From the director of Total Recall and RoboCop.
You wanna live forever?
Starship Troopers.
In 1999, the US animation series Starship Troopers appeared with regular 40 episodes at 25 minutes, but got cancelled after 36, which left to a cliffhanger. co-produced by Paul Verhoeven and is based on his movie, but contains much more elements from the novel. The controversial politics from the book are not addressed. The entertaining series with good animation had to deal with awful treatment by the airing station, which did not pay attention to continuity or decent broadcasting times. Nevertheless, it gained a fan base and is widely regarded as an insider tip. In 2004, Phil Tibbitt's Starship Troopers 2 Hero of the Federation appears direct to video and is in fact no hero. This trashy The Hidden Copy plays almost exclusively in a bunker, where unknown actors hide themselves from the CGI bugs, which is understandable since these look horrible cheap. Inside, the bugs possesses the soldiers one by one, with the usual annoying stereotypes, turns and twists which are neither surprising nor interesting, and that even with closed eyes you can see coming miles away. This thing has nothing to do with the novel and got rightly panned by critics. Many customers, like myself, who rented it in good faith at the video store felt downright betrayed. It is often cited as a prime example how not to do it.
Join up today.
How high you fly is up to you.
In 2008, Edward Neumeyer's US, South African German production Starship Troopers 3 Marauder came again direct to video with the return of Caspar Van Dien from part 1. In the story, a high military is under the influence of the bugs and has to be rescued. After a crash on a bug planet, Rico is sent on a secret rescue mission in which Marauder mechs are used. Although it is a lot better than part 2, worse wasn't possible.
The bugs find this place, they knock out the fleet. Next stop, Earth.
The movie cannot convince thanks to amateur realization. The interesting basic idea would have had the potential for a continuation, but for that the script should have been more than just one page. And the fact that the characters constantly behave completely illogically and act out of character doesn't help either. The fake-looking sets go hand in hand with the fake-looking effects, which gives this thing the final nail. It doesn't even deliver what it promises in the title. First off, all Marauder from the novel are actually powered exoskeletons and not tall mechs higher than a building. And second, even those mechs appear so late and short, you miss it if you blink. The whole movie seems like a passable short story for TV, which has been blown up to 100 minutes. In 2012, the Japanese-US animation movie Starship Troopers Invasion also appears direct to video as a sequel to part 1. It contains the 3 main characters from the first movie, which neither look like their counterparts, nor have their voices, not even the ones used in the past. Minister Carl Jenkins takes Captain Carmen Ibanez's ship, the Warden, and goes on a secret mission. Carmen wants her ship back and goes after it with the support of Rico. The passable animated story is quite entertaining and okay, but does not seem to be well elaborated and contains very little plot for 90 minutes. In fact, the movie is over when it should begin, namely when it comes to the title giving Invasion. This false teasing in the titles is annoying as fuck and seems to become common practice. That just comes off desperate and cheap. In 2017, the Japanese-US animation movie Starship Troopers Traitor of Mars appears as a sequel to Invasion, with a one-night US release, after that on home media. 2 of the main characters from the first movie, Rico and Dizzy, are spoken from their live-action counterparts.
Come on, you apes! You want to live forever?
Mars needs you.
Johnny!
Hold on tight, troopers!
Rico is ordered to work with a group of new recruits on a satellite station on Mars.
Kill them all!
But thanks to a ruthless Sky Marshal with secret plans to destroy the Red Planet to gain more political power, he faces a bug attack without the chance for calling for backup. Animation and the overall story are okay.
Am I dead?
But the villain is weak. I was less disappointed than from Invasion, if that counts for something.